My phone vibrated at 3:42 p.m. inside the Dallas Fire Rescue Headquarters. I'm Rita Fisher, Administrative Coordinator, buried in shift logs when an unknown number lit up my screen. I answered. Sophia, my 6-year-old, was on the line, gasping through tears. Mommy, Aunt Ashley hit me with the TV remote. She said if I tell, she'll do it again. A loud crash sounded behind her. Then Ashley's voice cut through, sharp and menacing. Shut up. The call ended abruptly. My heart pounded louder than the fax machine in the background. I immediately dialed Sergeant Vicente Gomez, who was 10 minutes away patrolling the neighborhood. Vicente, it's Rita. Sophia's at my parents' house on Maple Street. She's hurt. Go now. Tire squealed on his end. On my way. 20 seconds later, a text, arriving. I gripped the steering wheel, heart racing, heading toward the house 30 minutes away. In my mind, sirens screamed long before the engine even roared. Then his next message popped up, door breached. A scream. Sophia's terrified voice rang out through the speaker. Thanks for watching. Drop a like if this grabbed you. Share your own family wake-up call in the comments and subscribe for more raw, real stories that hit close to home. I sped along the highway, hands trembling on the wheel, phone clutched tightly in the other. The city streak passed. Billboards, traffic lights. None of it mattered. Her broken call replayed over and over in my mind. 30 minutes stretched like an eternity, each mile dragging. I swerved around a semi-truck with its horn blaring, indifferent to the chaos behind me. The exit for Maple Street came into view, and I took it sharply, tires shrieking on the ramp. Pulling up to the familiar ranch-style house, blue and red lights already flashed against the siding. Sergeant Vicente Gomez had Ashley Carter, my sister, pinned against the living room wall, arms twisted behind her back. She struggled, face red with anger, but he stayed firm, radio crackling with updates to dispatch. Officers flooded the porch, notebooks in hand, securing the scene. My parents, Mr. Harold Carter and Mrs. Evelyn Carter, stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching as though this were a minor inconvenience. They had been helping care for Sophia since the divorce, claiming it eased my load at the fire station. Now, their presence twisted my gut. Sophia, I shouted, pushing past an officer. Vicente gestured down the hallway. She's safe, Rita. Paramedics are with her. I rushed inside. The air was thick with tension. Sophia sat on the couch, knees hugged to her chest, eyes wide and glassy. A female officer knelt beside her, speaking gently. My daughter looked up, lip quivering. Mommy. I sank to my knees and pulled her into my arms. She buried her face against my shoulder, body trembling. It's okay, honey. I'm here. Vicente handed Ashley over to another officer, who secured her cuffs loosely for the moment. She shot me a glare that said, "This is absurd." She tripped. I snapped, voice low but cutting. Sophia flinched back slightly, whispering. And Ashley got furious because I'd spilled juice on the carpet. She grabbed the remote and swung it at my arm. The pain was sharp, immediate. The words hit even harder. I gently examined Sophia's forearm. Fresh, red, swollen. But the paramedic, a middle-aged woman clutching a clipboard, leaned closer after taking her vitals. Ma'am, there are older bruises on her upper arm, faded yellow ones. This wasn't the first time. My stomach dropped. Older bruises. How had I missed them? The room tilted for a moment. The officers began taking statements. Vicente went first, describing the forced entry after hearing Sophia's cries through the door. Ashley kept interrupting. She's exaggerating, kids, make up stories. Mr. Carter cleared his throat. Rita, calm down. Your sister was just disciplining her. Mrs. Carter nodded. Children need discipline, dear. Sophia's been fussy lately. Discipline. My blood boiled, but I forced myself to focus on Sophia. Tell the officer exactly what happened, sweetie. She nodded, voice tiny. Aunt Ashley yells a lot when you're at work. Today she said I was a burden, like always. Then she hit me. The officer paused mid-note, eyebrow raised. Vicente stepped closer. We have probable cause. Child endangerment. Ashley lunged, but the cuffs held her back. You can't prove anything. I ignored her and turned to my parents. You were here. Why didn't you stop it? Mr. Carter shrugged. We were in the kitchen, heard the noise, but assumed Ashley had it under control. Mrs. Carter added, Sophia's 6 now. She needs to learn respect. Respect? For being struck. The paramedic wrapped an ice pack on Sophia's arm, murmuring soft reassurances. Another officer photographed the scene. The overturned lamp, juice staining the rug, the remote cracked on the floor. Vicente pulled me aside. Read her for a hospital next. Full exam. We'll hold Ashley for questioning. I nodded, scooping Sophia into my arms. She clung tightly. Don't leave me again, Mommy. Never, honey. Never. As we walked toward the ambulance, the statements continued behind us. Ashley's denials grew louder, more desperate, while my parents offered weak defenses. The officers exchanged knowing glances. Another sign of a familiar pattern. At the hospital entrance, the paramedic repeated her observations. Those faint marks on Sophia's arm, consistent with repeated impact, would serve as documentation. The doors slid open. Fluorescent lights cut sharply across the hallway. Sophia gripped my hand tightly, and I realized this nightmare had layers I hadn't fully seen. In the pediatric ER, the steady beep of the heart monitor echoed, a constant reminder that Sophia's vitals were stable. She lay on the exam table, her small hand holding mine, while nurses adjusted the fore-drip to ease her pain. Dr. Elena Torres, the attending physician with a calm presence and years of experience in childcare, reviewed x-rays on her tablet. She pulled me aside gently, keeping her voice low so Sophia wouldn't hear. Miss Fisher, she said, the fresh mark on her forearm is from today. Blunt force, consistent with the remote you mentioned. The older bruises on her upper arm and shoulder have faded to yellow. They've likely been there for at least a week, maybe 2. The pattern points to repeated incidents. Repeated. The word hit me like a punch to the gut. I glanced at Sophia, who stared at the ceiling, avoiding my eyes. How could this have happened right under my nose? Dr. Torres handed me a printed report. We'll automatically file this with Child Protective Services. You should have copies for any legal steps. I nodded, carefully folding the paper. Sophia whispered, Mommy, am I in trouble? No, sweetie. You're brave for telling. I kissed her forehead, then stepped into the hallway for privacy. My phone felt heavy in my hand as I dialed Ashley. She answered on the second ring, the background noise hinting she was still at the station. What now, Rita? The cops let me go with a warning. A warning? My voice remained steady, though anger simmered beneath the surface. The doctor had just confirmed the old marks. This wasn't a one-time thing. A pause, then a dismissive huff. Doctors exaggerate. She's clumsy. Clumsy doesn't leave patterns. I pressed record on a voice memo app, holding the phone steady. Tell me why. Ashley erupted. Fine. I hit her because she wouldn't stop crying over nothing, spilling things everywhere. You leave her with us all day while you're at your fancy job. You can't even raise her properly. You'd be a better mom. Her words cut deep, but I stayed silent, letting her rant while capturing every syllable. So you admit it. Admit what? Discipline. Mom and Dad agree. She needs a firm hand. Her heavy breathing crackled through the line. I ended the call without replying, stopping the recording. 37 seconds of raw confession. My fingers flew, emailing the file to myself and a secure cloud drive. Sitting on a bench outside the room, memories crashed in, relentless and vivid. 2 months ago, Sophia started first grade at the neighborhood elementary. Ashley had insisted on handling the enrollment, claiming she wanted to help. We met at the school office, paperwork stacked high. One form caught my eye, a temporary care authorization allowing Ashley to pick up Sophia or make decisions if I couldn't be reached during my shifts. You just sign here, the administrator said. Ashley barely glanced over it, pen scratching quickly. It's just for emergencies, right? I didn't think twice, trusting family. But that simple paper had grown into something far more significant. A legal foothold for extended care, potentially enforceable if challenged. I'd snapped a photo of the signed copy to keep for my records. Back in the hospital room, Dr. Torres returned with discharge papers. She's cleared to go home with you. Ice the arm and follow up in a week. Sophia sat up slowly. Can we get ice cream soon, honey? I helped her into a wheelchair, my mind spinning. The recording burned in my pocket, evidence stacking like bricks. Nurses wheeled us toward the exit as Sophia chattered about school friends to distract herself. I saved the audio file again, labeling it meticulously. My heart raced. I realized the battle had only just begun. This proof could change everything. Outside, Vicente waited with his cruiser. Later, in a small coffee shop tucked on a side street near downtown Dallas, the smell of freshly ground beans mingled with the faint hum of the espresso machine. But the aroma did nothing to ease the tension as I slid into the worn leather booth. Ashley sat opposite me, flanked by Mr. Harold Carter on her left and Mrs. Evelyn Carter on her right, their postures stiff, as if attending a funeral rather than a family meeting. I'd chosen this spot deliberately. Neutral territory, public enough to prevent outbursts, private enough for hard truths. Sophia stayed home with a colleague from the fire station, absorbed in puzzles to keep her safe from the fallout. I placed my phone in the center of the table, screen down, subtly activating the recording before anyone noticed. We're here to resolve this before it escalates to court, I said calmly, folding my hands. No more excuses. Ashley crossed her arms defensively, her usual confidence starting to crack. Settle what? The cops already backed off. It was a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding doesn't explain the doctor's findings, I replied firmly. I held my gaze firm, determined not to let emotion cloud my strategy. Mr. Carter adjusted his glasses, peering over the menu in silence, yet the weight of his presence spoke volumes. He had always been the quiet enforcer when it came to family affairs. Mrs. Carter stirred sugar into her untouched tea, the spoon clinking nervously against the cup. To either ease the tension or shatter it entirely, I hit play on the audio. Ashley's voice filled the space. Raw, unfiltered, straight from our heated phone call. Her admission of striking Sophia in frustration, redirecting the blame toward my parenting, hung in the air. Nearby patrons cast curious glances as the words lingered. Ashley's hand, resting on her mug, began trembling, threatening to spill its contents. She set it down with a sharp clatter. You recorded that without telling me, she said. Evidence doesn't need permission when a child is at stake, I replied calmly. Her fingers quivered as she gripped the edge of the table. It was just a bad day, she defended, her voice rising. Sophia can be so defiant, talking back, making messes. I just tapped her to get her attention. Tapped. The word ignited my anger internally, yet I kept my composure. The report tells a different story. Mr. Carter finally made a sound, a grunt, but offered no words. He leaned back, arms crossed, observing silently, unwilling to intervene. I slid the medical folder forward and opened it to the highlighted sections. Diagrams marking bruise locations, timelines, estimated ages of injuries, and the physician's conclusion of non-accidental trauma. Read for yourself. Patterns over weeks. Ashley's shaking worsened as she flipped through the pages, her free hand clenching into a fist. She's always clumsy, falls at playgrounds, bumps into furniture. Clumsy doesn't match these specifics, I countered, pointing to notes detailing repetition. This goes beyond accidents. Mrs. Carter reached for the folder, scanning it quickly before passing it to her husband. We trusted you to handle things, she murmured more to Ashley than to me. The server approached with refills, quickly retreating when they sensed the tension. Ashley's excuses tumbled out faster. Kids test boundaries. I was teaching lessons you skip with your long shifts. Lessons with force. My response cut through sharply. Mr. Carter shifted uncomfortably, but stayed silent. His quiet presence spoke volumes. A tacit acknowledgement of complicity. I produced the prepared relinquishment agreement. A simple form relinquishing all guardianship claims. Sign this. Transfer all rights to me exclusively. Supervised contact only if earned. Ashley's tremor peaked, the pen hovering as if it were burning her fingers. You're forcing my hand, protecting hers. The vinyl of the booth creaked under shifting weight. Patrons at the counter laughed obliviously, a stark contrast to the tension surrounding us. Mr. Carter broke his silence for the first time. Consider the family name. Family comes first. I met him without hesitation. Mrs. Carter murmured gentle encouragements to comply. But Ashley hesitated, her hand trembling. Minutes dragged, the wall clock ticking ever louder, marking the standoff. Finally, the pen touched paper, the signature flowing reluctantly. There, it was done. Neither happy nor fully content, but resolved. I gathered the form, relief mixed with exhaustion. The air remained heavy as we prepared to separate, the signed paper a fragile bridge toward peace. Vicente texted from outside, ready if needed. I set the freshly signed relinquishment form aside and carefully positioned the older stack of authorization documents in the exact center of the table, every page facing Ashley. The coffee shop buzzed around us, deceptively ordinary, yet all attention remained on the revelation about to unfold. Before anyone leaves, I said evenly, look closely at what you signed months ago. Ashley's eyes drifted to the pile, wary. More tricks? No tricks, just consequences. I flipped to the crucial page from Sophia's school registration. The care delegation clause I had underlined in my notes. This wasn't a temporary pickup approval. It granted extended caregiving authority, valid for ongoing decisions whenever I was absent. In custody disputes, Texas courts treated it as foundational for permanent placement. Her face shifted from suspicion to stunned disbelief as she took in the legal reality. You're saying this old form gives you everything, plus today's waiver? Yes. It names me primary guardian without further challenge. Its binding power comes from standard family law provisions. Ironclad once executed. Snorts. Ashley grabbed the document, scanning frantically for loopholes. Shock turned to rage. She tried to shred it, nails tearing at the fibers, before I intervened and secured the originals. You deceived me from the school office, she yelled, voice cracking the cafe's calm. Deceived. I held the pages firm. You skimmed and signed. I kept copies. Mr. Carter extended a hand, trying to calm her. We didn't realize the full extent. Mrs. Carter nodded emphatically. They looked like ordinary permission slips. Ordinary. The understatement only fueled the moment. Ashley continued tearing the duplicate I had given her for review, fragments scattering like confetti of regret. This was a setup from day one, she accused, pieces crumpling in her palm. A setup for protection, I said, voice steady, unyielding. Your rush created the opening. Mr. Carter tried to reason. Destroying it changes nothing. The original remains. Mrs. Carter added softly, we thought it was helping everyone. Helped. The word lingered hollowly in the room. Ashley's efforts became frantic, tearing another section before the server intervened, politely offering a trash bin. Vicente watched from the window, ready if things escalated. The legal framework secured long-term authorization, with past precedents reinforced by recent evidence. An unbreakable chain supporting sole custody. Ashley slumped, drained by the destruction she had wrought. How could you manipulate family like this? Manipulation would be ignoring the harm, I replied, gathering the remaining pieces. This preserves Sophia's future. Mr. Carter murmured, conceding softly, perhaps we overlooked the warning signs. Mrs. Carter's eyes welled. Blood ties shouldn't end this way. Ties break when trust does, I said, letting the documents, even the ruined duplicates, underscore the point. As the tension slightly eased, the path forward became clear. No reversal was possible. The filing happened immediately at the courthouse. In the family courtroom, the old wooden benches creaked under shifting weight as attendees settled in for the emergency hearing. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting stark shadows on the paneled walls adorned with state seals. I had filed the petition as soon as I secured the documents, requesting an expedited review due to imminent risk. Sophia waited down the hall in a supervised play area, monitored by a social worker. Judge Harlan Brooks entered, robes swishing, taking the bench with commanding poise. Case of Pfizer versus Carter. Custody modification, he announced. My attorney presented the evidence bundle first, the long-term care authorization, the recent medical reports detailing injury timelines, and relinquishments. Ashley sat at the opposing table, her public defender's face drawn tight. while Mr. and Mrs. Carter remained behind her, expressions a mix of defiance and worry. Judge Brooks adjusted his glasses. Proceed with evidence. I testified steadily, recounting the initial call, arrival at the scene, hospital confirmations, and the established patterns. These incidents aren't isolated. The child fears her aunt. Cross-examination targeted my work schedule. Shifts left supervision gaps, filled by family, until the abuse surfaced. I countered calmly. Ashley's defender tried to minimize the incidents. Discipline, not harm, she argued. Judge Brooks signaled for the exhibits. He donned headphones to review the recordings privately, brow furrowing at critical admissions. Then he flipped through the doctor's annotated charts. Locations, healing stages, conclusions of intent. Clear, non-accidental, he murmured aloud, audible to the courtroom. Ashley shifted uneasily, whispering to her attorney. Snorts, Mr. Carter gripped the rail, knuckles pale. Mrs. Carter dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. The guardian from Lydium assigned to Sophia submitted a brief report following the interview. The minor expressed fear about returning to the relative's home and recommended placement solely with the petitioner. Judge Brooks nodded. Any rebuttal? Ashley's side presented character references from coworkers, but he dismissed them with a wave. Irrelevant to physical evidence. Deliberation was brief. He scrolled through the statutes on the screen. Considering the audio confession, medical corroboration, and prior authorization recognizing the petitioner as de facto guardian, he issued a firm ruling. Sole legal and physical custody granted to Rita Fisher. No shared decision-making. A wave of relief washed over me, though it was tempered. The gavel struck once. Furthermore, the judge continued, Mrs. Ashley Carter is prohibited from approaching the child. Any violation will be considered contempt. Ashley gasped audibly. Her workplace, a local daycare, would likely be notified under standard procedures for such orders, possibly triggering an internal review and suspension pending investigation. Mr. and Mrs. Carter exchanged horrified looks. Regarding the grandparents, Judge Brooks ruled that visitation rights were revoked indefinitely due to their failure to intervene. Any petition for reinstatement would require counseling and formal clearance. Mrs. Carter tried to stifle a sob. Mr. Carter rose briefly, then sank back into his seat, defeated. The clerk typed the order rapidly, spelling out restrictions with explicit legal enforcement. The bailiff escorted Ashley out first, her attorney following close behind. The Carters lingered, approaching tentatively. Rita, please reconsider. Reconsider safety. No, that was my answer. Final. One by one, the courtroom emptied. The echoes of our presence slowly faded. The ruling was set and protection secured. In our new apartment, soft children's songs played from the small speaker perched on the shelf, filling the cozy living room with gentle melodies that masked the distant city hum beyond the window. We had relocated to a quieter neighborhood in North Dallas, closer to the fire station and Sophia's new school, starting over among unpacked boxes still stacked along one wall. Evenings became our comforting routine. Dinners with stories, bedtime free of shadows. Sophia now slept peacefully each night, her little bed nestled under a canopy of glow-in-the-dark stars. Nightmares no longer jolted her awake. Therapy sessions had slowly unraveled her fears. Mornings, she bounded out of bed with energy, chattering about friends or her latest drawings. One afternoon, she proudly presented a crayon masterpiece, stick figures of us holding hands beneath a rainbow, labeled Mommy and Me Forever. For you, she said, hugging my legs. I knelt to admire the bright colors. It's beautiful, honey. This goes right on the fridge. Her creativity bloomed. Paints and papers scattered across the kitchen table on weekends. I joined in sometimes, our laughter ringing as we built abstract little worlds together. Over cocoa one evening, I spoke gently about trust. People we love should make us feel safe, not scared. True family listens and protects. She nodded thoughtfully, sipping. That conversation deepened our bond, slowly mending what had been broken. Mail arrived routinely. One envelope bore familiar handwriting. The Carters. Inside, carefully worded apologies. Regret for past mistakes. Requests for forgiveness. Hopes to reconnect. I read it quietly, emotions swirling, then tucked it into a drawer without reply. Healing was our priority. Reopening old wounds served no one. Our focus shifted to routines. Trips to the park, library visits, baking cookies. Sophia thrived, gaining confidence in small victories, like tying her shoes on her own. Nights, after tucking her in, I reflected on our journey. The call that shattered illusions, the evidence that strengthened resolve in court, the boundaries that were formalized. Strength had grown from adversity, teaching vigilance. During story time, she murmured sleepily, "I love you most in the world." "I love you more, sweetie," I whispered back. Her words warmed me deeper than any legal resolution ever could. This ordeal reinforced a crucial truth. Parenthood demands fierce advocacy, recognizing harm even when it comes from family. Blood may define relation, but actions shape family. To anyone facing similar shadows, trust your instincts, seek help, prioritize the vulnerable. No child should endure silence. Breaking it can save lives.